The story begins with Jack, a businessman forced to lay off several employees because his company is failing. An elderly employee, just weeks away from retirement, begs Jack not to fire him. He asks Jack to cut his salary instead. Jack refuses. Broken and desperate, the man pulls out a gun and points it at Jack. Jack tells him that his wife recently suffered a miscarriage, and if Jack dies, she might take her own life as well. Hearing this, the employee turns the gun on himself and commits suicide right there. This incident deeply traumatizes Jack. A short while later, Jack calls his wife and tells her he wants them to go away together for a few days. His wife happily agrees. That evening, Jack is sitting alone in a bar when a woman named Julia is arguing with the bartender over a drink. The argument annoys Jack, so he tells the bartender to give her the drink and says he'll pay for it. Julia walks over to thank him. She quickly realizes Jack is wealthy and begins flirting with him. Jack shuts it down immediately, saying he would never betray his wife. He then leaves the bar. The next morning, as Jack is heading out on vacation with his wife, he starts receiving messages from Julia. She tells him she knows how much he loves his wife and claims she doesn't want his wife to find out about what happened at the bar. But if Jack wants everything to stay a secret, he must pay her 500,000 euros. Even though Jack never did anything with her, Julia continues to blackmail him. But Jack tells her that people like her are handled by his lawyers and then completely stops replying to her messages, choosing not to tell his wife anything about it. After spending the night at a hotel, the next morning Jack and his wife arrive for a hot air balloon ride, where the operator informs them that one more passenger will be joining. When the woman arrives, Jack is shocked to see that it is Julia. Soon the balloon rises high into the sky, and Julia deliberately starts trying to talk to Jack's wife. She already knows about the miscarriage and understands how emotionally fragile Jack's wife is, which is exactly why she is blackmailing him, knowing he cannot bear to see his wife suffer again. Julia keeps finding excuses to interact with her, while Jack quietly takes his wife to the side of the basket. By now, Jack's wife has noticed that Jack has been tense ever since Julia appeared, but she doesn't question him. She then asks Julia to take a photo of them together, which Julia does, and afterward Julia asks Jack to take a photo of her and the balloon operator. Jack can't refuse, and when Julia hands him her phone, a message is already written on the screen saying that if he doesn't pay, he will regret it. Jack ignores the message, which makes Julia furious. And in front of Jack's wife, she suddenly says that this has gone on long enough and that Jack must end the matter immediately or face serious consequences. Jack's wife is stunned and asks what she means, and Jack quickly tells her that Julia is crazy and that he briefly met her at a bar the night before. At the bar, Julia had been arguing over a drink, and Jack had paid for it just to stop the disturbance, but since then she had been blackmailing him. Hearing this, Jack's wife gets angry and tells Julia she should be ashamed of herself. Julia fires back, saying Jack is the one who should be ashamed because after the drink he was intimate with her, and she even noticed a birthmark on his chest. Jack's wife is shocked because that part is true. Jack does have a birthmark on his chest. Jack quickly explains that during their Hawaii vacation, many of his beach photos were uploaded online, and Julia must have seen them there. Realizing her lie won't work anymore, Julia pulls a knife from the balloon operator's waist and demands the money. When the operator tries to radio for help, Julia cuts the wire. Jack sees his chance and grabs her, and the operator helps him. During the struggle, the gas pipe is accidentally damaged. Gas spreads around Julia, and the burner ignites, setting her on fire. They somehow manage to put out the flames, and the operator shuts off the cylinder, but this causes the balloon to rise uncontrollably. The only way to stop it is to open the top valve using a rope, but the rope has burned and snapped, making it extremely difficult to reach. The balloon keeps rising until it reaches an altitude where planes fly, and the oxygen level drops, making it hard for everyone to breathe. Risking his life, the operator climbs onto the basket to reach the valve, but Julia briefly regains consciousness and pushes him down because she doesn't want anyone to survive. Moments later, she passes out again. As the balloon continues to rise and oxygen decreases further, Jack also loses consciousness. With little time left, Jack's wife climbs up like the operator did, reaches the rope, ties it to the basket, and climbs back down. This finally opens the valve, and the balloon begins descending, allowing Jack to regain consciousness. After regaining consciousness, Jack immediately ties Julia's hands and feet, then shows his wife a photo from their Hawaii trip on his phone where his birthmark on the chest is clearly visible. There is no network at that height, so he cannot show social media, but the photo is enough for his wife to trust him. Soon they realize that massive mountains are directly ahead, and the balloon is heading straight toward them. The burner is not working, so they cannot change direction. They throw all the equipment out of the basket to reduce weight and try to clear the mountains, but the balloon still crashes into them, tearing a hole in it, though they manage to cross over. Jack's wife gives Julia water because she is badly dehydrated, yet Julia continues repeating that Jack must pay her and that he used her, though no one believes her anymore. The balloon then drifts into a region filled with thick fog and extreme cold, and using the fog as cover, Julia secretly frees her hands without Jack noticing. Jack asks why she's doing this after he only helped her at the bar, and Julia finally reveals that the employee Jack fired, who later took his own life, was her father. Before Jack or his wife can react, Julia attacks Jack with a knife, which strikes his shoulder instead of killing him. Jack's wife tells Julia she will arrange the money and asks her to hand over the knife. But just as Julia is about to do so, Jack attacks her with the gas cylinder, killing her. His wife then asks why he did that, saying Julia was about to give up the knife. Jack tells her that Julia could have harmed her, which is why he had no choice. The balloon, already damaged from hitting the mountain earlier, begins tearing even more due to strong winds, causing it to lose balance and start falling toward the ground. Jack suggests throwing Julia's body out since she is already dead, but his wife refuses. They try turning the gas burner on again, and it finally works, allowing them to regain some control and avoid crashing into the rocks, though the danger is far from over. They are still at a very high altitude, and the balloon remains unstable. At the same time, Jack's wife cannot stop thinking about whether Jack lied to her, and whether Julia might have been telling the truth, leading to arguments between them. During the tension, Jack's wife accidentally steps onto the burned section of the basket, causing it to break, and she slips down, barely managing to hold onto the basket. She calls out to Jack for help, and for a moment, he only watches her before finally pulling her back up. She asks why he hesitated and why he did not grab her hand immediately, and Jack says he was scared. This makes her even more suspicious, as it feels like his intention was not to save her. Jack then tries to reassure her, saying everything he has done is for her, that she is the most important person in his life. Soon the balloon enters heavy clouds filled with rain and a storm, causing the burner to shut off again, while the torn section of the balloon rips even further. Jack's wife quickly climbs onto the balloon and ties the damaged section to the basket, allowing them to safely pass through the storm. With no more large mountains around, the balloon slowly begins descending. It becomes clear that they will survive. Suddenly, his wife remembers that Julia had mentioned which company's socks Jack wears, and she asks him about it. Jack explains that sometimes when he sits, his pant leg lifts up, and Julia might have seen the brand name on his socks at that moment. But his wife argues that if he truly did nothing wrong, there should be nothing related to him on Julia's phone. She starts looking for Julia's phone, but Jack notices it nearby and cleverly kicks it out of the basket with his foot. When his wife fails to find the phone, she asks to check Jack's phone instead. Jack hands it over confidently, believing there is nothing suspicious on it. However, while checking the chat, she finds a video Julia had sent that Jack never opened, and when she watches it, she sees Jack being intimate with Julia. The truth is finally revealed, and Jack admits it, saying that after the miscarriage, she was depressed, kept him emotionally distant for a long time, and they were no longer intimate, which is why he did it. His wife responds that everything Julia said was true and calls him a disgusting person. Jack gets angry too and says she was just a school teacher and that marrying her changed her entire life, adding that he pays his cleaner more than her salary. Seeing his true face, tears fill her eyes as she tells him she was wrong to trust him and that he is a terrible person. She says Julia was right about him and that he murdered an innocent girl, and now he will not escape because she will tell the police everything and nothing will save him from going to prison. Hearing this, Jack moves toward her, but suddenly he slips into the same broken spot of the basket where his wife had nearly fallen earlier. He manages to grab a rope and begs her to save him, but she does not listen. Instead, she pushes Julia's body onto him. As Julia's body falls onto Jack, he loses his grip and plunges down to his death. After that, she safely lands the balloon, sets it on fire, and walks away, knowing that if she returns to the world, Jack's powerful lawyers would place all the blame on her. Julia's phone contains evidence proving that Jack and Julia were involved, and once the police discover this, all suspicion would fall on her, making it seem like she killed everyone out of jealousy. To avoid this fate, she disappears and chooses to live a life in anonymity. And with that, the film comes to an end.